Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing some Tierra Numeron test hands. So I'm really excited to do this one for you guys because this was actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Gloomba, and this is a really awesome deck that summons one of the hardest boss monsters in the entire game to summon in the form of Tierra, which is a awesome boss monster that essentially resets the entire game when it touches the field, which is absolutely crazy. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below, just like Gloomba did, for all those awesome rewards like getting your name in the description of every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron along with test hands. And definitely give Gloomba some love down in the comments down below for suggesting this awesome deck. So let's get straight on into this. So this is a really awesome deck. I really love the way that it plays. It's very similar to my Dark Arm Dragon deck where I turbo out Dark Arm Dragon using some draw power, because this card is actually a little bit hard to search. It only has a couple of weird cards in the entire game to be able to search this card. So we're just playing around with the Numeron package to be able to still OTK the opponent and then draw really deep into the deck, which helps out the deck a lot to be able to go into some really awesome plays. I love the way that this deck plays. It's very quick, and if you don't draw into your copy of your Tierra, you can still go in with the Numeron package to OTK your opponent, and if they out it, you still have plays to play with if you do top deck, one of the many ways to actually get to your copy of your Numeron network, which is the most pivotal card in the entire deck next to your copy of your Tierra. So we're going to go ahead and pile shuffle the deck and see what we can do for our first test hand. And as you guys can tell, this is a really cool deck. I love this deck. It's already like turning into like a really interesting deck. It's actually the counterpart to the Sophia deck that we did last month, which was really cool with the Heretics. If you guys haven't checked that one out, you definitely should check that deck out. But let's go ahead and see what we can do for our first test hand. We're going to go ahead and cut the deck really quick and see what we can do. So we're going to go ahead and draw, and we're going to draw into a copy of Terraforming. We're already fine because we have the copy of Numeron Network right in our hand, even if we can't summon out the copy of Tierra, which we probably will be able to because it's going to give us 5 unique cards. We're then going to draw into a copy of Allure of Darkness, which is also really good for this deck. Copy of Memories of Hope, we're definitely going to be fine. Copy of Spellbook of Magician, and a copy of Spellbook of Secret. So we have plenty of draw power in this hand to go into anything that we're going to need to go into, which is what this deck does best. So we're going to go ahead and drop the copy of Terraforming and search the deck for a Numeron Network. So once we grab that copy of Numeron Network, we're going to go ahead and activate the copy of Numeron Network to then send from our deck to the graveyard a copy of Numeron Calling. Once we send that copy of Numeron Calling from our deck to the graveyard, we're then going to special summon to our side of the field one of each of the gates, from Gate 1, Gate 2, Gate 3, and Gate 4 to our side of the field. Now, this has already given us 5 unique cards on our side of the field. Now, this is where the skill comes in that you have to pay attention as a player as you're playing this deck. You have a search card in your hand, but you also have draw cards in your hand. Which one do you activate first? You always activate the search so you don't draw into the cards that you're trying to search, especially with a card like this that you only have one potential target that you really need. So we're going to go ahead and activate the copy of the Spellbook of Secrets. Spellbook of Secrets is going to let us add our final target for itself that we might have drawn into if we didn't know where it was into the deck, which is a copy of Spellbook of Knowledge, which is very important to be able to grab our Spellbook of Knowledge, because now that we've grabbed our copy of Spellbook of Knowledge, we can then use the copy of Spellbook of Knowledge to be able to send from our hand to the graveyard our copy of Magician of Prophecy, which has the ability to send either one spellcaster monster you control or another spellbook card from your hand to their field to the graveyard to be able to draw 2 cards. So we're going to go ahead and send these to the graveyard and draw 2 cards, which is another Numeron Network and a Cyber Ouroboros, which is a very good draw because we have plenty of plays in our hand with it. So I'm going to actually show you guys why I play the copy of Cyber Ouroboros. We actually drop the copy of Allure of Darkness, which is going to let us draw 2 cards, which is going to draw into our big boss monster of Tierra. Now we have the Allure of Darkness, and we have to banish a card from our hand. So, as you look at this field, you notice there's only 2 cards in our entire hand and field that actually match, which is the copy of the Numeron Network that we don't really need, but we can use another draw. So we're actually going to banish the copy of the Cyber Ouroboros from our hand, and the copy of Cyber Ouroboros will actually let us send a card from our hand to the graveyard to draw an additional card because it was banished. So we're going to send from our hand to the graveyard the copy of Numeron Network to draw an additional card, which is another copy of Tierra. It still netted us another draw, which is really helpful for what we're trying to do. Now, at this point, you can use the copy of Memories of Hope. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 unique cards. This is going to get us into our additional cards. We're going to draw 1, which is another Numeron Network, a copy of Numeron Wall, a copy of Allure of Darkness, and a copy of One Day at Peace, which we just set up the whole play. So as you guys can see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 unique cards currently to summon out one of our 2 Tierras that we drew into. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to be able to shuffle back into the deck to actually summon out Tierra. Now keep in mind the copy of Numeron Network won't count, but you do have the Numeron, you have the other copy of Tierra to be able to use with that combo, so it actually makes the extra copy of the card. So we have right here, we have all of the cards we need to be able to shuffle back into the deck. So we have all the cards that we need right here. Even if we use a copy of Allure, we draw into 2 unique cards, which would give us more cards to go into, which we could then just discard this to be able to add our copy of our Golden Bamboo Sword and keep digging in the deck. So we're going to shuffle all of these cards back into the deck and be able to go in for some additional plays of being able to put all of these back to summon out our copy of our Tierra, which is really simple in this deck, and I really love how easy it is to summon this deck. There's a lot of different ways that you can actually summon this card in a lot of different decks, which is like normal Pendulum, which you can play basically just one of everything in the deck, which is something I play tested with. You can play it in a deck based around like this with the Numeron package, and you can even play it around with a Zephyr deck to be able to summon out this awesome boss monster. Now, if you guys are unfamiliar with what this crazy card does, it actually has the ability that it cannot be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned from your hand by shuffling 10 other cards with different names from your hand and or field into the deck or the extra deck. It cannot be special summoned by other ways. Let's actually take a quick zoom in on that card to show you guys up close what this card does. It actually has the ability that this card special summon cannot be negated, and if this card is special summoned, shuffle all cards into the deck except this card. And each player, or excuse me, except for this card, from either player's hand, field, and or graveyard, and face up pendulum zones from the extra deck. And neither player can activate cards and effects in response to this card's activation. So this card literally shuffles everything back except for the banish card, which we actually put that back on our side of the field of the copy of the Cyber Ouroboros, because it wouldn't shuffle that back, which is totally fine because I don't need it anymore because we've gotten the copy of Tierra. Now, once you summon this card to your side of the field, you can pretty much just start attacking your opponent because they're not going to have anything on their side of the field, which is going to be very important for us and very bad for them, because being able to just special summon a 3400 beat stick, their opponent's going to be really hard pressed. It doesn't have any protection, but our opponent's going to be hard pressed to out this card. They're going to be having to top deck 3 cards that they basically get 3 chances to out this card, and if they can't go any sort of combo, we win. So we're going to attack once and then we draw. So we're going to draw, or we wouldn't get to attack first turn, but we're going to go ahead and pass. Our opponent's going to draw. If they don't draw anything, we draw, and we draw a Spellbook of Knowledge. Attack for our first time, we draw again. If they don't draw anything, we draw, attack again, and then on the third and final attack, we draw again, and then we swing for the final attack. Now, it does take 3 turns to be able to completely wipe out the opponent, but you had the copy of the Allure of Darkness that could have drawn you 2 more cards, which would have sent all of this to the graveyard and got you a search of a card, because the copy of the Cursed Bamboo Sword was sent to the graveyard, of a Golden Bamboo Sword or a regular Bamboo Sword, which would have helped out a little bit because later on you might have drawn into a Cursed Bamboo Sword or a Broken Bamboo Sword to be able to draw 2, which would have been the only card we would have had in our hand, which is totally fine. We still had plenty of plays. Now, as you guys can tell, this deck is very reliant on what kind of cards you actually draw in your hand. You need, like any deck that plays Numeron, you need to get to Numeron Network as quickly as possible. And we play 7 different ways. If you guys want to check out the deck profile, it is down in the description below to be able to check out the deck profile. But it is a really, really awesome deck. But it's a really, really reliant on the draw power, which is something that you just kind of go with the territory with when you play a deck like this, to be able to summon out your copy of your Tierra, which is why I thought it would be very important when building this deck to include Numeron in it, because you don't want to draw into your random cards in the deck. You want to be able to play if you draw into a Numeron Network, even if they out your copy of your Tierra. So let's go ahead and see what we can do for the next test hand. So for the next one, we're going to draw into a copy of Contract with Dawn Thousand. a copy of Numeron Network, which we're already set up, a Numeron Calling, which we don't want in the hand, a copy of One Day of Peace, and a copy of Foolish Burial Goods. Now, this is a very good hand right off the bat. We have a draw 2, we have a special summon, and we have a send to graveyard effect to grab us a draw 2, essentially. So let's go ahead and see what we can do. So, right off the bat, we're going to activate the copy of the Foolish Burial Goods. And once we activate Foolish Burial Goods, we're going to send the copy of the Cursed Bamboo Sword from our deck to the graveyard. And once we send that to the graveyard, you're going to be able to search a copy of Golden Bamboo Sword from the deck, because the Cursed Bamboo, when it's sent to the graveyard, will add that card from deck to hand. Now, at this point, if we draw into a Cursed Bamboo Sword or a Golden Bamboo Sword or a Broken Bamboo Sword, we're going to be able to draw 2 as long as you draw into either a Cursed or a Broken, and then you can activate this. And then this card basically is a Pot of Greed at that point. Then we're going to send that to the graveyard, and once we do, we're then going to activate the copy of Numeron Network to be able to get out of our deck the copy of Numeron Calling to be able to get us out our 4 unique gates, which is really helpful to get out the copies of the gates, because you're going to want to get them into the field as quickly as possible so you can go in for more plays. So we're going to go ahead and activate that, and we're going to go ahead and go gate number 2, gate number 1, 3, and 4. And once we get all of these monsters out on the field, you can then start drawing even more. So we're going to activate Contract with Dawn 1000, which is actually one of my favorite cards in this entire deck, because this card is very cool along with the Numeron cards, because Dawn 1000 was actually the one that played Numeron, which is pretty cool for what the deck does. And we're both going to be able to draw. Both you and your opponent is able to draw, and we draw into Tierra. Now, you have to kind of think about this one a little bit, because you want to think, do I have the cards on the field to be able to go into this if I do draw a +1 in this particular scenario? So, you have on your field 6 unique cards. You have in your hand 3 unique cards, which is only 9. We're a little bit short. So let's just take a peek and see if we actually would draw it. If in my scenario, I probably wouldn't go for the risk, but in a lot of scenarios, since you already have it, you're playing a deck like this, why not? Because you're already going to protect yourself for 1 turn, and you can always go in for a Mega Clops to be defensive. So we draw into a copy of Allure. Now this is where it gets risky. You can drop the copy of Allure, but keep in mind, as you drop the Allure, you only have in this one particular deck 4 targets for Allure. So you kind of have to guarantee with the draw power that you already have it if you're going to activate it. So if we do activate the copy of Allure, we're going to draw into 2 and we don't hit, which is the important thing to keep in mind if you're playing this deck. So if we didn't activate the Allure and we just kept going and said, oh, that's a little bit too risky, we're just going to pass, we can go ahead and use these cards together to link 3 of these away to the graveyard and keep 1 on the field to be able to link into a copy of our Infinitrack Mega Clops. You can, if you want to, link into a copy of Yugioh as well, which is another option for you guys, which, if I was being honest with you, I would go for it if I'm trying to summon out Tierra. You could actually summon out the copy of Yugioh to be able to dig into the deck. Now keep in mind, you can't summon her this turn because you've already summoned your 1 additional time. So at this point, you would draw 4 cards off the top of your deck, and then you place 3 back on the bottom of the deck, which I want to keep this, and I want to keep this. And we're actually going to put back on the bottom of the deck the copy of the Numeron Calling and the Card Destruction and the copy of the Spellbook of Knowledge. Now that we have this particular hand, you have a little bit more chance to be able to go into your copy of your Tierra on the following turn, because you can activate this and attach it to the Yugioh, draw 2 off the copy of the Broken Bamboo or the Golden Bamboo Sword, draw into a Memories of Hope, and then on the following turn, now that you have Memories of Hope, you will go into your copy of your Tierra and you put back your copy of your other card. So when your opponent goes on their turn, they're probably going to out the Yugioh, but they're probably not going to completely OTK you because you have a Yugioh, and when you go for your next turn, we're going to draw into a copy of Spellbook Magician. So at this point, we're going to send from our deck to the graveyard the copy of Numeron Calling again, and this is why you play double gates. You play 2 of every single gate. We're going to send those to the graveyard, or send that to the graveyard and summon out our 4 gates, which at this point we have 6 on the field, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in our hand unique cards. So we have our 7, 8, 9, and 10 that we can immediately go in after the effect of Numeron Calling goes off. You're just going to put all of these back into the deck and put all of your cards back into the extra deck and basically reset the entire duel all over again. And your opponent has already committed to some plays. So at this point, you're going to summon Tierra. That cannot be negated. They cannot basically stop it. You're just going to summon out your copy of Tierra, and you're going to be able to win the game. Because at this point, you can swing, because the last turn, they couldn't OTK you because you dropped 1 day of peace against them, and you summoned out the Yugioh, and you had a big beat stick on the field. So even if they hadn't out the copy of the Yugioh, you had Memories of Hope to keep digging into the deck, even if you didn't have the unique cards. As you guys can see, this deck functions extremely well to be able to summon out your copy of your Tierra, which is really amazing because it's a really hard card to actually summon in the game. So you summon out the really cool card, you then can attack your opponent, and then if you pass again, you're going to draw into a copy of the Cursed Bamboo Sword, attack again, you're going to draw into a copy of Contract with Dawn 1000, which they already lost 1,000. So at the second attack, at this point, they would take around, they would be at 200 life points left. You could activate the copy of Contract with Dawn 1000 before you attacked, and it would let both players draw a card, which would give you the Dark World Dealings, and then attack, and that would be game, because that would be right at about the damage you need to be able to win the game, because they would lose right at about 200 left they would be, and so you would pretty much win. So that'd be really cool, even if you had to draw one more card. So you still had game and set. So let's go ahead and shuffle up the deck and show you guys one more test hand, because as you guys can see, the deck is pretty consistent in what it's trying to do and being able to pretty much OTK the opponent, or not OTK, but summon out Tierra to your side of the field to be able to establish a really crazy awesome boss monster to your side of the field to be able to win the game. So let's go ahead and pile shuffle. We're not gonna pile shuffle. We'll just go ahead and test it as is, because if it bricks, it bricks. It's one of those things that you take the risk when you run the territory with a deck like this. So we're gonna go ahead and draw Terraforming. We're already fine. A copy of Upstart, Golden Bamboo Sword, a copy of Memories of Hope, and Dark World Dealings. This is about one of the most ideal setups you have, because you have a Terraforming to grab your copy of your Memories of, or your copy of your Numeron Network, and you have Memories of Hope to draw 4, so already set. So we're going to go ahead and activate the copy of Terraforming to be able to grab from the deck a copy of our Numeron Network, and once we drop the copy of Numeron Network, we're then going to immediately activate the effect of Numeron Network to send from our deck to the graveyard Numeron Calling. So once we send that to the graveyard, again, we're going to special summon out all the gates to our field, which is 1, there's 2 right there, there's gate 1 and gate 3. I know, I'm really bad, I gotta put them in order, but it's just part of it. So what we do at this point, we're gonna go ahead and drop the copy of Memories of Hope to draw 4 more cards to be able to see if we can hit the copy of the Tierra or more draw power. So we're gonna draw 4 off the top of the deck, which this is totally fine. We're going to go ahead and activate the copy of Upstart Goblin, draw another card, which is an Allure, drop the copy of Allure to be able to draw 2 more cards, which is a Numeron Wall, drop the copy of Numeron Wall for the effect, and then use Dark World Dealings to be able to draw another card, which is a copy of a Golden Bamboo Sword, which we're actually going to discard, the Cursed Bamboo Sword, which is going to be able to search from the deck our Broken Bamboo Sword, which is going to give us a draw 4. So we're going to search a copy of the Broken Bamboo Sword, which is the very next card in our hand, shuffle up the deck again, and then we're going to be able to keep going. So at this point, you have even more draw power than you could imagine. We're going to be able to drop the copy of Contract with Dawn 1000, be able to draw another card, which is a Spellbook of Knowledge, and then we're going to activate the copy of the Broken Bamboo Sword, targeting literally any monster we have on the field. It doesn't even matter which one you pick. Drop the copy of Golden Bamboo Sword to be able to draw another card off the top of the deck, 2 more cards, which is a copy of Foolish Burial and a copy of Cursed Bamboo Sword. Then at this point, you can activate the copy of Dark World Dealings to draw a card and discard a card, which we're going to draw into a Cursed and ditch the Cursed for a copy of Golden, and shuffle the deck up, hopefully to draw a copy of Tierra at this point, because we're digging through this deck. And then at this point, you could, if you wanted to, use the Foolish. If you didn't want to, you don't have to be able to ditch something to the graveyard. That's where you should have ditched the copy of the Cursed, but it's totally fine because you still got more draw power. We're going to activate the copy of the Golden Bamboo Sword to be able to draw 2 off the deck, which is an Allure, and a copy of the Dark World Dealings. Activate our copy of the Allure of Darkness to draw 2 more cards, which is another Allure, and a copy of Contract with Dawn 1000, but we have to banish our copy of our Numeron Wall. And then at this point, you can drop the copy of the Golden Bamboo Sword to draw 2 more cards off the deck, which is a Cyber Ouroboros and a copy of Spellbook of Secrets. We then use the copy of our Spellbook of Knowledge. Actually, can you use that? I gotta double check. Send from your deck to the graveyard Spellcaster or one other spellbook from your hand. Yes, you can. You can actually use it right here.
to then draw 2 more cards, and you hit Tierra right there. But we can keep drawing just to show you guys the point. We already have Tierra. We have 5, 6, 7 unique cards on the field. We only had to have 3 in hand. Let's just show you guys how deep we can actually draw at this point. Allure, we're going to use the copy of Allure to be able to then send from our deck to the graveyard the copy of our Cyber Ouroboros off the copy after we draw 2 more cards. Send this, banish it, then send a card from our hand to the graveyard that we're not going to need, which is a copy of the Cursed Bamboo Sword, which can search if we had any more targets, which we don't. And we're going to shuffle up the deck again, and we're going to see if we can actually just keep going and how far this deck can actually go, just to prove a point to you guys. We're going to use the copy of Into the Void. We can draw an additional card, and then we can use the copy of Card Destruction, since we know we have in the deck. You can actually count your deck at any time, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards in deck. And we have in our hand 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards in hand, which you're going to drop the copy of the drop the copy of your Card Destruction to ditch your entire hand, and we're going to deck ourselves out. Pick up the entire deck except for 1 card off the bottom, which we're going to draw into all these unique cards, and we decked pretty much ourselves out, because at this point you can 1 Day of Peace and both players pick up the last card of the deck, which I don't know many decks that can do that outside of like Exodia decks. So at this point, do we have the numbers that we need? We have 5 right up here, 6, 7, 8, 9, and we have 10 right there. And then we have exact numbers because these 3 are duplicates. And then guess what? We can summon Tierra to our side of the field with a complete deck out. I think I deserve a like for that one. And definitely, if you aren't subscribed, you should be now. So let's go ahead and summon out our copy of our Tierra to our side of the field. All 3 times from our test hands, we're going to summon out Tierra. It never even thought about bricking, which is what's really cool about this deck. And even the last 2 were on top of the deck. So this is a really cool deck. As you guys can see, I really enjoyed making this one. It was a blast to actually play around with because it really makes me think of my Dark Arm Dragon deck, where you dig deep into the deck using cards like your copies of your Allures, your copies of Upstart, 1 Day of Peace, Memories of Hope, to dig into the deck to get the exact cards that you need for your particular plays. And even playing cards like Cyber Ouroboros, I really liked that tech that I came up with for this deck. I haven't seen anybody else use that in decks like this, which it was a really good tech. I really liked it in this deck. It helps you get unique cards in your hand and get other cards that you don't need out of your hand. So I think that's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for suggesting this one, Gloomba. This one was a blast to actually play around with, and definitely give Gloomba some love down in the comments down below for suggesting this one, because it was a blast to play. It was a blast to deck myself out and show you guys this deck and be able to just do the profile for you guys, because this is a very unique card to actually summon, and I wanted to do something different with it, which is why I went for the Numeron route with a bunch of draw power. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can come part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.